your institution in procuring is ICT equipment, software, and all kinds of resources that are ICT related. The number and the budget keeps on increasing every year. However, we still don't change our practices on how we practice on our day-to-day activities. It's very disappointing if we have invested so much of those resources and yet we ask individuals to come physically to our offices to acquire or to ask for the same data or information which could be shared easily through the public domain and they can access it anywhere, anytime. Now imagine your office is located in Dar es Salaam, someone in Goma, someone is in Ukerewe, someone is in Lindi, and you want someone to come physically and request such kind of information. To me, I would encourage everybody in our institution, wherever we are investing this kind of resources, let us also take time also to change our policies, our practices that we do, because otherwise the benefit of investing in these ICT facilities will not be realized if we still continue working using the product that we used to with or when ICT was not there. So as much as you are talking about authenticity, privacy, and all kind of stuff, I'm sure frameworks, policies, mechanisms are there to protect the data, and yet data can be, or data or source code or whatever you want to share in the public domain can be done there through the platforms that are already available in our in the public domain. Otherwise, this kind of investment will be useless if we continue investing and then we don't change the practices. Thank you.
Asante. Naona Professor Msofe naye anataka kuongea kidogo. Karibu Professor.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I want to remind all of us here that the government is actually working into making data sharing possible. Nimsikia Mheshimiwa Rais mwenyewe akisema kwamba anataka mifumo isomane. Want the different system that we are using to be able to connect, to be able to communicate. So that is where we are going. Now, so when you talk about open science, we are already seeing that from other sectors, we are already talking about making sure that we can read from the same panel, from the same platform. So we should not be worried that open science is coming, because already we are doing it in other ways. Yeah.
Asante. Naona muda wangu umeisha kabisa. Sasa labda kama mwenye next session kama ataniruhusu, sawa, lakini kama haniruhusu, no. 2 questions? You give me two questions. Still? Okay, 10 minutes. Nikaribishe swali kule back kule. Naomba mpelekee mic kule mwisho kabisa.
Habari za asubuhi. Kwa majina naitwa Patrick Mwakilama, natokea Dar es Salaam Tumaini University. Swali langu limejibiwa na mkurugenzi wa kutoka wizarani, lakini nilikuwa nataka tu Profesa Mtebe atueleze, kwa sababu imeonekana open science ina involves stakeholders wengi. Kwa hiyo sasa angetueleza labda kwamba sasa katika hao stakeholders kuna COSTECH, kuna the ministry, ni nani aanze kulidi, kwa sababu ni lazima sasa hizo policies tumeona kwamba bado hazipo. Ni nani alidi ili iwe practical zaidi, the way forward. Asante.
Asante.
Please go ahead. Professor Mtebe, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Asante, Patrick. That's a very good question. Yes, in open science initiatives or movement, there are multiple stakeholders. I must say, everyone is involved, including you. My experience in working in universities normally changamoto watu tunasingizia watu wengine. We all say the problem of openness or sharing data resources are aligned with someone, but we always have our own challenges. Kwa mfano, it's very common we find our colleague having learning resources na fundisha course X, then let's say next semester someone else is supposed to teach the same course that I was teaching in the previous semester. How many colleagues who are able to share those learning resources na kakupa wewe course yako ya last semester ukaitumia the same course kufundisha ya mwalimu mwingine? My experience shows that academics huwa pia hawapendi kushare. That starts with us ourselves. Nasema bana, hii course nilikuwa nafundisha mimi, these are my resources, atengeneze za kwake. People don't share. Not only that, even your colleague from a different institution, let's say your colleague from Tumaini University, from let's say Mjenwat, want to use your own resources. We face those challenges. People are scared of sharing. In the project of HEAT that I am coordinating in the ministry, we had even a challenge of sharing even a curricula. Mtaala wa agronomy wa chuo X. Colleague of yours is just asking, can you have that curriculum so that I can see? One will say, this is the property of our university. We can sell you. We need to enter agreement with your institution to be able to share just a curricula. You see, so sharing these resources, you can mention in so many stakeholders, but we are all part and a parcel of the whole process. There's an issue of institutional policies. In many institutions, if you scan through institutions, we still have those IPR property, and we believe we can sell learning material to other universities. If you go to University X, they will say, we can prepare learning material and then we share with other resources, with other universities. I was working with the one university, I can't mention it, in this country, in the ICT domain. They were building a data center. Na wao wakisema kwamba our data center tutaitumia kuwauzia vyuo vingine, they host it to us. Rather than building for sharing, they are building so they can sell the services to other institutions. Only to learn, when you visit another institution, then they're also building another data center, and they are targeting to sell the services to the institution that they also target doing the same. Kwa kila mmoja anamvizia mwenzie kwamba sisi tunatengeneza data center, baada ya kushare na wenzetu, we will make it as economical kwa uzia wengine. Na wao wengine wanatengeneza kwa uzia wengine. So ultimately, in the same loop, everyone is building a solution to sell to someone rather than thinking about communicating, engaging as mkurugenzi wa elimu ya juu amesema hapa, issue of engagement. You don't engage, but rather you just build, but you think that you can do business. So as many students are there in the domain of open science, everything starts with you as an academic, as a researcher, as a policymaker, so that you can create this awareness and a culture of engagement and sharing, understanding that these are public money. Most of these funds that we are receiving, either through HEAT project or through UNESCO or anywhere, these are resources of the government. And if you have a curricula, a course material, data, research. The last thing that I want to comment, I happened when I was at the principal of the College of ICT, we had a challenge where we have our wanafunzi wa masters and PhD wanaomaliza hawa. This is dissertation and the thesis. The debate was tusiweke online. Why? Kwa sababu kuna chuo X watachukua, wataziconvert, watagraduate. Then you keep on having those dissertation and the thesis kwenye library kama hard copies, cannot be shared. And ultimately, no one is accessing them. So it starts with not only policymakers, even the mentality of ourselves on knowing that sharing inakufanya pia una promote your institutions, ina promote yourself, and in a more advantageous than just keeping it as yourself. Thank you.
Asante, nimalize tu kwa kusema conclusion ni kwamba sharing is caring. You care others by sharing. The other thing is we have already the national framework for data sharing. So please get use of it. And there was a concern about the intellectual property right issues. There are issues in the platform of data sharing, there is data licensing. And there are three key protocols. where there is one which is CC BY O, which you share and you open for everybody to access without any recognition. But you have an option number 2, where you share your data, but you want somebody to recognize you. He can or she can recognize you through citation. That is CC BY 1. And then we have CC BY 4, which allows you to share your data or your information, but without going for commercial purpose. If the users want to use your data for commercial purpose, he has to come back to you and request you to approve users of data in the commercial purpose. So due to our time constraint, we cannot go more. Hii discussion ni hot kama mlivyoiona, is discussion ambayo inatakiwa ifanyike, iendelee. Maybe we could have 2 hours discussion, but because of the time we cannot go ahead. We hope next year tutakutana tena wakati kama huu kwa ajili ya kudiscuss tena open science. Thank you so much my panelists. Thank you so much Professor Mtebe for your presentation. Asanteni sana, tumemaliza session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hulda. This was a powerful session, and we are really privileged as a COSTECH to have you as our discussants. So the next section is plenary session number 2, and just to highlight before we start that, the major 60 publishers, they are facing an antitrust law, and that has a big implication, as Professor Nuhu actually commented during the session. So with this antitrust law, which is ongoing, and these major publishers have not yet responded, but if we are in love of open science, we are praying that these major publishers, they to fail actually in this litigation which is ongoing. And this has a huge implication for the open science practices, policies, and sharing of information. So it will lead to actually democratization of knowledge as we are trying to achieve. So the next plenary session number 2, I would like to call Prof. Simon Msanjila from University of Dodoma to come and moderate the second plenary session. So you'll come and introduce your discussant, your keynote presenter, to continue the session. Let me upload.
Good morning, participants of this session. Na wasalimu kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. So we have a session on advancing STEM education for competitive future generation. Our presenter is Professor Najat K. Muhammad, the Director General of TAIC. Can you come forward, please? I also have panelist, Professor Nuhu Hatibu. Are you around? Because we have only one screen, so please you can sit here in front so that you see the text while the presenter is making, and then during the discussion you will move. I just want to check if you are there. Sylvester Ruge Iham, Okay. Jumanne Mtambalike, are you around? No. And Miss Asia Isa. Okay. So while the presenter is setting herself, I can just give her brief history. Professor Najat is a professor of nuclear physics and is currently working as a Director General of Tanzania Atomic Energy Agency. Prior to that position, she was working at the University of Dar es Salaam in the Department of Physics. She has achieved extensive publication in the area of physics and nuclear physics. Please, Professor, we are waiting for you. This session is about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And already we have a question of technology challenges that we have to resolve before the presentation continues. So please bear us a few minutes as they sort out.
Data ninazo, nashangaa kwamba haiendi.
Email yako sasa kuingia.
Habari za asubuhi. Nawasalimu kwa jina la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. I'm Professor Najat K. Mohammed, as I have been introduced, and I'm here to present Advancing STEM Education for Competitive Future Generation. My presentation is going to be a bit short because we have more time for discussion, and I may use both languages. So first of all, what are the STEM? I think all of us know it is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Means the education which is teaching in schools, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So first of all, we have to ask ourselves, what is the importance of STEM education? We know now that we are in the era of fourth industrial revolution. There's a lot of technological advancement and innovation, and this technological advancement will need science to be developed. We also, the world is facing a lot of complex global challenges. For example, we have a problem or challenge of climate change. We have also problems in healthcare advancement. We may have pandemics, or we may have non-communicable diseases such as cancer, diabetes. All of these are actually rising, and the number of people having these problems is increasing. So we need science in order to try to solve these complex problems. So normally, STEM education, when it is taught in a proper way, fosters a culture of curiosity, encouraging students to question status quo and seek innovative solutions to the challenges that lie ahead. And STEM education, therefore, is a critical engine of inclusive growth and sustainable development. Now, if we look at the status of STEM education globally, first of all, there is an increase of demand of STEM skills worldwide. As we have said that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. Everything is being digitalized, from agriculture, healthy, education, etc. So there are a lot of demand for STEM skills worldwide. Also, because we're in the fourth industrial revolution, which supports progress in artificial intelligence, the field of robotics, the Internet of Things, 3D printing, autonomous vehicle, quantum computing, nanotechnology, to mention a few. All of these will need science and technology and engineering. Of course, some of them will need specifically mathematics. For example, if you want to go into AI, you need a lot of mathematics background. Now, we've seen globally that countries with high STEM human capitals are all competitive, productive, and experience high economic growth. To show you a few examples, we have United States, for example, offers worldwide class STEM programs. We know the high quality education from MIT, for instance, university from Harvard, Columbia University, etc. And they have a lot of innovation and contribution to the global economy. Also, another example is South Korea, for instance. This has invested a lot of STEM education and is leading in significant advancement of electronics and robotics. Now, if we come to nationally, Tanzania. In Tanzania, we recognize the importance of STEM as we start the science and technology education in primary schools. This is a one subject called science and technology. This is taught in primary school. And then in secondary school, we have the science subjects and mathematics taught separately. That is, we have chemistry, physics, biology, and math. These are compulsory for all students in Form 1 and Form 2. Now, when the students enters Form 3, they are allowed to choose. They are allowed to choose between 3 streams. Now, here is where the problem starts, if we can call it a problem or challenge. Because students who are allowed to choose, they would like to choose subjects which they think are easier to understand, 1. 2, they show a clear career path. 3, they are interesting. So if we want to make sure that we have a national with many STEM experts, we need to initiate mitigation of the challenges in this or before this level. Because before the students are allowed to choose, let's make the science subjects in schools interesting. We are going to see later how we can make that, but this will need a lot of bigger budgets, because we'll have to change, or maybe we have changed, we have started to change because we have a new curriculum. Methodology of teaching to make the science subjects interesting. Otherwise, students, currently very few students will go for science in Form 3, and they become fewer in advanced and in high-level education. Now, challenges facing the STEM. I can propose 3 to 4 challenges. The first one is limited funding and resources of STEM program. There is always a limited funding, because teaching the STEM, if you want to make the subjects interesting and have impact to the students, needs a lot of laboratories and workshops and computer labs, so that students are engaged. They do hands-on education. They participate well in teaching. Otherwise, they can find it very difficult. So we have very limited resource, especially for schools in the rural area where they don't have equipped laboratories and computer labs. We have also a problem of teachers. Now, if we want to develop the infrastructure of the STEM, for teaching STEM, we need to have teachers who are capable of teaching the subjects. Now, in teaching, we normally divide the teaching into two parts. One, teachers who are competent in the subject and the concept of the subjects. Two, teachers who could use different and interesting methodology for teaching, depending on the level of the students. So we need, if we want to advance in STEM, we need to develop our teachers, as well as curriculum. Three is gender disparity. This is also a problem or a challenge in STEM, as we are going to see in our discussion or presentation. Gender inequality is seen everywhere in the world, globally. However, the problem is seen more in developing countries. We have a problem, for example, Tanzania, of gender, female, very few female in STEM. However, it's not only us. Countries such as USA, Japan, Canada, which are considered as developed countries, they also have a problem. Although our problem is more than theirs. In African region as well, all over Africa, you can find that female in STEM, the number of female in STEM is small. Very few female are in the STEM. Now, if we go to Tanzania, statistics show that female students account for only 33.6% of the total student population in higher education. Or in engineering, for example, you can say female to male ratio is 1 to 5. 1 female for 5 male. Now, data from between 2018 to 2023 show that only 35% of STEM graduates or graduates were female. Now here is a bigger number. This statistics shows a bigger number compared to like a decade ago, because there are a lot of mitigations have been undertaken. Even in some universities, in the previous years, they had a program such as specifically for female. And there are several activities which are going on to include number of female students into science. For example, people are going to the schools to talk to the girls. This is it's called a roadmap in some institutes or in some universities. So female teachers will go to the several schools to discuss with students, show them what they can do, tell them about the career path, etc., etc. So the number has increased, although it's not what we are expecting. Now, apart from students, women also continue to be lagging behind in STEM, in career. In career-wise, in Tanzania, we have very few female scientists or very few female engineers. As data are showing here that as for July 2024, there are 38,000 engineers in Tanzania, out of which only 5,000 are women. And this is about 15%. So we have only 15% of engineers in Tanzania as women or female. Now this, as we go up, the number of female to become fewer in the career is because we have few students in our high school and secondary schools. Another example is we have only 4 female who have a PhD in physics in the whole of Tanzania. So we need to do more to encourage female students to join the STEM, as they are also part of the economy. They can also contribute to the economy of the country. Now, opportunities. There are opportunities, several opportunities, if you study on the field of STEM. One, as I have mentioned earlier, growing demand for skilled STEM professionals. Because of the advancement of the technology, we need a lot of STEM professionals so that they can work in the field. The job market for STEM careers continues to grow at exponential rate. Why? Because of the advancement in technology and the increased emphasis in digital skills in all sectors. We know now that in all sectors, everything now is digitalized. We have even smart agriculture. We have smart telemedicine. Everything is digitalized. So because of that, we'll need a lot of, there are a lot of opportunities in the STEM careers. There are also opportunities if we can partner industry and international organization with academia. We know what are the challenges in the industry so that we can prepare our students to be able to solve, so that they can feel, that the student can feel important. They can feel that they are needed to the society from the beginning, from early stage or early levels. Also, the opportunity due to digital transformation, which enable remote and innovating learners. As have been presented in the morning, open science, for instance. So the information are everywhere. I remember when we are studying ourselves, for example, during my master's degree, we didn't have information on internet. So you go to the library, ask for a paper. I want this paper. And the library will have to order the paper. So it will take 2 to 3 days. You wait for a single paper. But now, thanks to the open science, access is everywhere. There are a lot of lectures in the YouTubes, a lot of books, which are soft copies, etc. So learning is now become easier. So there is also opportunity there for students to study. Now next, what are the strategies? So what shall we do to advance STEM education for both boys and girls? Because we want them both. So one, to provide funding, increase the budget for STEM programs. As we have said, teaching STEM courses or programs is very budget demanding, because we'll need equipped laboratories, we'll need computer labs, we'll need workshops, etc., so that students can learn by themselves. They can interact and try to formulate to solve the problems or the challenges. We can revamp curriculum, try to review the curriculum, and I think this, at least Tanzania has done that. We have now a new curriculum which includes the ufundi, amali. So now we are in the process of having this, but we'll need first to increase the budget so that we can be able to have in these schools which we are going to do the learning by doing, have equipped and sophisticated laboratories. We need teachers. As I have said earlier, we need teachers who will go along with the technology. One, who are competent in their subject matter, are competent in methodologies which will raise interest of the students, are also competent in using the technologies, because they have to move with the world, where the world is going. Now here, for teachers, as we have said earlier, we have very few graduates from STEM. This means these graduates are distributed in different cadres. Very few will be going to education. This means we have very small number of science teachers or mathematics teachers in the country. So we need to improve this part. At the same time, try to teach them, for them to become competent in the subject matter and the teaching methodology. Next, to support students' interest and engagement. We have to teach students by doing. So we have to change the methodology, teach them by doing, such that they become interested into the subject. For example, you can also have like STEM clubs, you can have science competitions, you can have science camps and summer camps, you can have STEM career awareness. I know that some of these are already in place. I know there is a science camp this unfortunately was for girls, because we see that girls are fewer than boys. But there is a science camp at the University of Dar es Salaam since, I think, like 6 years ago. There are also now competitions. I've seen recently a robot competition. There are also competition for combining the science with business, that the students of A-level will come and pitch to make their products commercially. So at least here we are trying, but we need to involve more students, especially in the rural area. They are at a disadvantage level. Also, we have to encourage early exposure. As I have said, the problem of having very few STEM students begins when the students are allowed to choose. So we have to allocate or point our mitigations and actions at lower level. Try to promote the teachers of Form 1 and Form 2. Try to make sure that they make the students love the subjects. Mathematics is normally perceived as very difficult. So we have to change. We have to change the methodology, how we can make the students love the subject. Now, recommendations. Recommendation is we need to have policy and legal to update our national policies and incentivize STEM programs. We can also introduce regulation for industry-academia collaboration. This is very important because we need to make the students solve the challenges in the industries so that we can make our industries more productive. We also need to develop STEM labs and technology careers in school, technology centers in schools. We can also establish regional STEM hubs. Make them students have places where they can go and practice. I think that now in some universities they have places like for keeping students for digital practices. For example, at DIT, I remember there's I forgot the name, but there's a place, there's a laboratory specifically for students who can go there with their idea and try to shape the idea into something as a product. They also go to the industry, means they can go to hospitals, try to find the challenges at the hospital and bring them to their labs to solve the problems. We also need to train and train educators, apart from teachers, but also educators who will teach the teachers. Provide the mentorship program and professional development for the less experienced teachers. Should be attached to more experienced teachers for mentorship and professional development. And financing strategy, of course, try to find other sources. Private sector, for example, NGO, apart from depending on only government. We can also introduce incentives for STEM-focused investments. Now, in conclusion, as I have said earlier, by investing in STEM education, we are not merely preparing our youth for a future career, but rather we are empowering them to shape the future itself. STEM graduates should be the architects of technological breakthrough, the pioneers of sustainable solutions, and the drivers of economic growth. STEM education is crucial for Tanzania's sustainable development. A collective effort involving government, private sector, and civil society is needed. Together, we can build future-ready Tanzania through STEM education. Thank you for listening.
Makofi mengi tafadhali kwake. So now may I invite my panelists to come front. Professor Nuhu Hatibu, Sylvester Lugeihiam, Miss Asia Issa. I don't know if Mr. Jumanne Mtambalike has finally arrived. Not yet? Please have a seat. We are already warned of the time. Can you have a microphone? Unfortunately, I don't have CV for all of you. So I will advise that you spend, if possible, less than 1 minute to say who you are. I start with the Professor Nuhu.
Thank you very much, Chair of the session. My name's Nuhu Hatibu. I am an agricultural engineer. I have been at Sokoine University of Agriculture for 20 years. I reached a professorship there and Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture. Then I went out to work on international organization. I worked with the CGIR at ICRISAT for 4 years. Then I was the founding CEO of an organization called Climo Trust that was based in Kampala for the entire East Africa for 10 years. And I finished my work as a regional director for AGRA based in Nairobi. Now I'm running my own company called Africa Academy Limited, which is designed to provide private education in STEM. And we are running our first school called Arusha Science, based in Arusha.
Thank you very much.
Yes, my name is Sylvester Lugeihiam. I'm the teacher. Mimi ni mwalimu. I'm just teaching the mathematics in the Department of Mathematics, University of Dar es Salaam, for a number of years. I can't calculate them now. And I've been engaged in some various educational initiative and various NGOs and the Ministry of Education and the TAI, COSTECH, and NECTA.
Good morning. My name is Asia Issa. I'm working with Ministry of Education and Science and Vocational Training Zanzibar. Pia ni mwalimu kwa miaka mingi tu. Asante.
So let me initiate this panel with a few questions, maybe one to each. I will start with the Professor Nuhu. You moved from the university to industry, so I expect you have observed and witnessed the change of what we do at the university and what is needed from the industry. Technology is about the application of scientific knowledge for practical purpose, particularly in industries, to change life environment. And we have been talking of STEM for years and years. And you come from Sokoine University of Agriculture, so you also talk about technology. Do we really teach technology in universities, or we teach philosophy or science of technology? And if we teach in technology, why is it not seen in the industry?
Very good question. We teach, but our biggest problem with respect to STEM education, or sometimes called competence-based education, is our examination system. Everything we are talking about, like our current policy on amali education, is very good. It's actually an update of an old policy of the late Mwalimu Nyerere in 1969. He talked and he gave a very powerful speech about education. And he said what I'm saying: if we don't change the examination system, we are not going to have practical people. But unfortunately, himself as president, he was not able to change that. And we've changed it, we've not changed it up to now. So you cannot talk about STEM education or amali education the way Professor Sajati have presented so well, the way our policies present so well, unless your reward system, which is the examination, is also pushing that. So our biggest weakness, our reward system, is wrong. So unless we change that, at the moment, my school, Arusha Science, is a STEM school, but it's a private school. It is a very expensive school. So I'm always struggling between the parents that understand what STEM education is and the parents that look at the NECTA results. And the main problem there is, at the moment, I'll tell you, we've been talking about STEM education since 1969 when Julius Nyerere gave his speech, but to date, project accounts for only 5% of the final results in NECTA. 5%. Who is going to put his effort in that if you give him the only 5%? So the first thing that we need to change for our good policy and good strategy on amali and competence-based or STEM education is we must change our mode of assessment. We should give not less than 50% of the final marks to practical and project work at all levels. Then this system of education will take on, will really be implemented. So that is where really the problem is. We have got very good policies, very good strategies, but we are not doing it. And how can we do that? People will tell you, how can you examine projects correctly and give it 50% in practicals? The answer to that is technology. Professor said about it. We can digitize all assessment. Every student now, even in primary school, they've got smartphones. Okay, of course we need to guide against the hackers. All those smartphones can be used as cameras to take a video of the students doing their project, their practical, and accumulate all that data digitally, and then it can be assessed. And there will be no cheating because this will be recorded exactly how the student is doing. But if we want to go even higher, we can introduce virtual reality system and the extended reality and artificial intelligence. Now, it's expensive, but I think it is the budget we've used in heat, and most of it has been used to build buildings. If it was used to set up virtual reality laboratories, students can even repeat experiments 10 times at no cost, because they're actually using virtual reality and so on and so on. And that will enable students to really be mahiri in Kiswahili in whatever they are doing. Okay. And let me finish by this statement. This, one of the best evidence of learning by doing is the fact that each of us here, gari lako likiharibika, ule mechanics unampeleka kulitengeneza hana cheti chochote. Ukitaka kujenga nyumba anajenga tufari hana cheti chochote, but specialized kwa kufundishwa internship na mafundi wengine, and they are running this industry in this country. So if we transfer that kind of training which these boys and girls are getting through all the mafundis into the way we teach in school, then amali education will take off. Otherwise it will not. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. Key point, assessment mode. I studied technical secondary school. And for the technical subject at Form 4 level, we were doing the so-called trade test. That was purely practical. We are testing skills. So, Mr. Sylvester Lugenyam, do you think STEM need to be added another component, a so-called skills, so that it can move to the industry? Do you think universities need to move to that direction?
Thank you for your question. What I wanted to begin with, the word STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, could we look from the lower level, and then we go to the university. I don't think the STEM is a subject. If you talk biology, you talk physics, you talk chemistry. STEM is an activity inbuilt into the teaching. Even if you talk mathematics, I don't say, I'm studying mathematics, I know mathematics, I know what to add, then I know STEM. When you use mathematics, you apply mathematics in various sectors, then you are inbuilt mathematics in STEMs. If you teach physics or you teach biology, you just in the class you write notes and you finish up, and then you say this is STEM, then you are not. But if you had some component, as my friend is saying, you are doing practicals, you are doing embedded application of what you are teaching, then you are touching STEMs. That is my understanding. You could teach, if you ask myself, do we have STEM in the primary school? I would say no, but there is science. We touch a little bit of science in the primary school. We do. There is a little bit of science in the primary school. If you go in secondary school, do we have STEM in secondary school? A little bit, yes. Yes, we have. But then we go, which kind of STEM do we have? Those are the practicals someone is mentioning here. But what are the types of practical we are doing in schools? When is this type of practical? I was reading some few days ago in the practical guidelines in NECTA, which are done throughout the country. And they say, how this was established? It could be those are the specific kind of practical I did in my stage. Are we changing them? Are they going with time? Are they producing some new innovation? And then you come to your question, do you need to embed it up? But before going to the universities, let us go into what I would wish in myself for, to see if you can say at a moment, graduates say, I spent 3 years in school with nothing. That is coming now very often, and that starting to say it openly, and those are the graduates. But what you are missing there, you are teaching theoretical, you are missing practical issues. And practical issues, practical activities lies in STEM. I was asking myself, if someone is studying KLF, HKL, component of STEM. HGR, yes, there is geography there. You can capture STEM issues, but in somewhere, STEMs very little and maybe sometimes none. But where we are now, we need build up STEMs in teaching. And if I could mention, if you say I'm doing engineering, when for the lower levels, you need an elementary skeleton design of engineering. Construction, a simple construction. And I happen to have some volunteers, they call the Peace Corps volunteers. Those were demonstrating the STEM issues in various subjects. And we fail even to take them. So the question, do we need to incorporate STEM in your teaching? basically we have a lot of issues at the university levels. The STEMs are there. Once you advance it, if you go to engineering, then you go to the specialization. When someone was talking about Tawiri, talking research on Tawiri, you already specialize in certain direction. But somewhere you are not yet specializing, but you are building up capacities into the STEMs, which will help you at some stage produce output. So basically, yes, it is necessary. We need incorporate STEM in teaching, which will bring to be interesting to the students. Otherwise, if you keep teaching too much theoretical, a little bit of practical, with these financial problems, you will see what is going to happen to your graduate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Asia Isa, I have a question for you, but let me pause to Professor Najat first. I'm a professor, you're a professor, and there is professor too. We have been doing research in science, publishing a lot, writing a lot of books, but nothing goes to the industry. Where are we doing wrong, Professor?
I think the problem was, or it still is, that there is no collaboration between the academia and the industry. Everybody is working in isolation. We as academics, we are doing our research and then we put them in shelves. We go to conferences, okay, we think that is enough for public, but very few will be in the conferences, or very few will read the papers. So what we need here is to link the academia with industry. I had a discussion with the Vice VC of Nelson Mandela, and they have introduced a new master's program on nuclear science. And he was telling me that what they are going to do now, after the students has finished his coursework, they are going to send them to the industry. Go there and look for challenges. What are there to be solved? And then when they come back, they will do their projects or their dissertations depending on what they have seen in the industry. I think that way, to make our students solve problems in the industry, to have links, to collaborate, to work together with the industry. Thank you.
Industry linkage. Yes.
Thank you very much, Professor. I want to add something slightly bigger. Our biggest problem is also we don't consume what we don't produce industrial goods for our own consumption. We buy most of our industrial goods from outside, unnecessarily. Can you imagine a country that got independence in 1960? You go to India, you sell gold to India, and then you buy mabati yaliyokunjwa yanaitwa bajaji with that money to bring it to Tanzania. I mean, that is ridiculous. We cannot make a bajaji. We got independence in 1960. We've got University of Dar es Salaam engineering is 55 years old. And we sell raw gold to India, and then we use that money to buy mabati yaliyogongwa yakafungwa ka engine hapo, kanaitwa bajaji zimejazana huko mjini. And that is the main problem. Our people will never have ambition of doing technological things, including our government money. The reason India is where it is, they abolished the government vehicles to be imported from abroad. Kwa hiyo, if we do that, for example, today tukasema hakuna kuanzia rais mpaka waziri, hakuna kuendesha gari la nje, we'll have vehicles next year made in Tanzania. And that is what we need. We have to, these chairs we are sitting here, they were all imported. I mean, how can you import this chair wakati tuna carpenters for 100 years? But vyote tumekalia hapa vimekuwa imported. This is our problem. We don't consume our own products. So our industry is not growing because all our money is going to paying for other people's industries. Therefore, what wakisoma STEM, what are they going to do? There is no money coming into that sector because we're not buying things from that sector.
Yes, Professor. I have practiced both as a professor and as a policymaker too. I have worked on those two directions. My understanding, professors are qualified, trained people to solve people's problem, not to solve problem on their mind, on their discipline. Policymakers are there to make sure citizens' needs are met, independently of which way. Unfortunately, researchers and professors, we don't want to be influenced by policymakers, but we need their money to do our research. We don't want to meet the people's problem, needs that the policymaker represent. We want to solve our chemistry and biology research question in the lab that has nothing to do with the people in the street. That's where the dilemma comes. A policymaker wants medicine. He wants you to produce medicine, but you want to do filtration, titration, and there. Until we listen the government, what they want, we keep doing profiling and putting in the cabinet. I'm giving the other side of my. So let's go forward. I was responding because I see you put a finger. Ms. Asia, from the policy perspective, in 2023, if I remember, when Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, inaugurating the 50 years of NECTA, she mentioned this statement. Graduates are being produced, but they cannot deliver in the industry. And she posed a question, where are we doing wrong with the assessment? The assessment case has come here. From the policy perspective, what is your stand? What are we doing wrong with the assessment today? Are we assessing the right? What is needed to the market? Karibu.
Okay, thank you. I think in the assessment we are assessing right, but the major problem is most of the assessment we done is summative assessment. I think, and we need now to change the mode of our assessment to have formative and other type of, to have also assessment for learning and of learning instead to have a summative evaluation, because summative evaluation they inasababisha wanafunzi to first they have cramming because they done for end of the syllabus, and we must learn, for example, if we study biology or physics, you know, we have from one we have this topic and they have a practical and whatever. So I think when we done the changing our mode of assessment to be assessment of learning and for learning, and formative assessment can be helped. Now we have a changing of curriculum. I think when a new curriculum, they have also the changing of way of assessment of a student.
Thank you very much. Now to the public. We have time limited, but I try to put rooms for questions. Please raise your hand if you have a question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this will be. So please, if you have a question directed to a specific panelist, mention the name of the panelist and then ask your question so that you can respond. Please.
Thank you very much. My name is Philibert Ruhunga. I'm from the Commission for Science and Technology. I have a very small 2 questions. The first one is on the policy issue. Who is choosing these students, like when they finish Form 4 to specialize in Form 5? Who is responsible? Is it NECTA or the ministry or TAMISEMI? Who is responsible? And what is the challenge of someone who is choosing this student? Have you observed nowadays? I just want to know the first. And the second is on the curriculums. I remember a professor there said there is very limited STEM in the science, in secondary school, primary school, even at the university level. I agree with him, because when I was studying physics, you study Bernoulli's equation, and you don't know the application of Bernoulli's equation until you finish a master's or PhD. No application of that Bernoulli's equation, just claiming. Is there a possibility to change the curriculum in such a way that when you learn something, you even know the innovation and technology of that topic? Is it possible? I'm just asking that. Thank you very much.
Yes, next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Yusuf Koleleni. I used to work with the University of Dar es Salaam. Now I am with MUM. My idea is that I have a comment, not a question. I think we have made our student and children to be psychologically demoralized by telling them that sciences are very difficult subjects. And we have to change this concept. Instead, we have to encourage them and show them that sciences are very simple subjects, and consequently, the mentality of very difficult should change to very simple. And the government should invest a lot in science so as to appear very simple, different from the previous concept. And whenever scientists are delivering, then they should be best rewarded compared to other subjects, or the same as other subjects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Professor Sophie.
Yes.
Professor, are you asking a question? You are responding to questions, because you can do both.
I was trying to ask a question first.
Oh, okay.
And my question goes to my brother, Professor Hatib. How do we appetize the private sector in Tanzania to invest in science education? Because I see that that is one of the things that is missing. The private sector has not much appetite in investing in science. That is my question. And to try to answer the question that was posed before of who is responsible for the selection, the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology is responsible for the policies that govern education. But the implementation of those policies are within the TAMISEMI. So TAMISEMI is the one that is responsible for selecting which pupil or which goes to which school. I think I probably have answered part of your question.
I think yes, you have responded. In addition to that, specific combination that the student is selected is usually indicated by the student himself or herself. Not from nowhere, just no. They usually... Can we receive the questions first? I was just adding to the director. This here? Professor there?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is to Asia, or Professor Msofe can help us. Day one, we also received a lot of concern that there is no linkage between the industry, academia, and the research. Asking, why have we failed for so long, and what do we need so that they are linked? After that question, I'm bringing a recommendation. We have been to other countries, and some of the things is just copy and paste. If you go to India, and what I'm recommending to the government, for industries, it is a policy issue, kama Mzee Simbakali alivyosema kwamba inahitaji mkono wa serikali, kwamba kila kiwanda kiwe na research department, na wenzetu ndo wamefanya hivyo. Kama hakiwezi, kiwe na memorandum of understanding with a high learning institute or a research institute. Na kama hilo haliwezekani, high learning institutions and research institutions should provide space for industries to go and build their research department right at the university. If you go to India, computer science school, you will see IBM, Apple, and other computer industries. Thank you.
You will be the last. Behind you.
Thank you very much. Nitaka kuelezea kidogo kuhusu Profesa Najat alitugusia kuhusu jenda kwenye presentation yake, akaongelea 5,000 kwa 30,000 nadhani kitu kama hicho, wana sayansi wa kike. Sasa kitu cha kujiuliza ni wale capitalist, mataifa makubwa ambayo yatahitaji kututawala kila siku, ndio ambayo yanaleta hizo sera na elimu ambazo tunazitumia hasa kwenye level za juu. Kiangalia level zetu za katikati hapa, tunatumia sana CBET, lakini huko juu kuanzia university degree ni KBET, kitu ambacho kule ndio inapoteza elimu mpaka hao PhD unakuta ni elimu ambazo ni za nadharia. Na toka miaka hiyo watu wanalalamika, walimu wanalalamika, watunga sera wanatunga, baadaye hazitumiki, wanalalamika. Mwisho wote taifa zima tunalalamika kwamba hatufiki kwenye lengo la hiyo STEM au CBET. Sasa nataka kufahamu hapa tatizo ni kwa wale wanaotunga sera au wanaotakiwa wazitumie hizo sera kuzifanyia kazi. Asante.
Thank you very much. I think it's time to respond.
Sorry, Coordinator.
Before you respond,
I just have something to add as comment.
Can we respond and then you will see the time? Oh, okay, you can comment.
Okay, generally, I'm Dr. Maonesho from MUSTI. What I wanted to comment is a number of good issues have been presented here with regard to STEM advancement. But what I see is we are lacking maybe a model and a guideline that consists of indicators with a timeline which indicates that at a particular time we'll be able to realize the result and maybe the challenge that will be encountered will be solved. Therefore, after a certain duration of time, we'll be able to see whether we have been successful or not. That's what I think we are missing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, as you respond to the questions, I would like to give you 2 practical observations. Last year, I did a research to see, curiously, why dissertation for masters and PhD in technology and science are moving towards social. So I perused University of Dar es Salaam, University of Dodoma, Nelson Mandela, all the universities. You can find the dissertation masters is assessment, evaluation, investigation, you don't find a design develop. They're completely missing. You get 1 out of 100 or 2. And we talk of technology innovation. Where are we going? I think universities and Niger answer. The second observation to you from industry. This year, I was doing another task to look on needs of technical and vocational skills in industries, purely in industries. The trend that I observed now, industries, production industries, are now employing Form 4 and training themselves. They are running away from graduates. And one of the industries that I visited, I found in a department of 7 employees, a department in that industry, a technical department, the head of department was Form 4 because of skills, and they were graduate, they are just normal officers because they cannot deliver. From industry, Msofa is asked, how can we motivate you? While you respond, consider this. So we start with Miss Asia.
Okay, asante. I think that for that question, it answers the student choosing from TAMISEMI, but also you have addition. Most of the students at the end of Form 4, they have filling the form that what combination that can be choosing after result. The challenge sometimes can be the student can choose art, and especially if the student get division 1, they have 3 or 4 tahassus or combination, they can be managed to choosing and learn in advance. But it depends also the space, but most of the challenge within this selection is from their own, also sometimes parent. I think other students, they can choose, for example, to study HGL or HDK, but it's a parent sometimes emphasize to choose the PCM or PCB. That is the property. Most of selection, we follow their filling of the form of their own student. It's my part of question.
Thank you. You can respond if you have any. Mr. Rugeyam.
No, mine, I just wanted to add on the same issue of combination, which is the same I happened to visit TAMISEMI to address on the same issue of combination. You are asking students to choose combination, but they don't know the meaning of combination. They don't know why I'm choosing PCM and PCB. They have narrow understanding. And that's why we are talking the question, student, they are say science is difficult, learning away from mathematics from primary school, and you expect someone to do science later on. Forget about it. Students are learning away from mathematics. Say mathematics is difficult. Mathematics has no use. But then you expect it, and life is bright in STEM. Can I repeat this? Life is bright in STEMs. If your student learn away from mathematics, there is no way in future you can practice the STEM. Just the only I can point out now, and I also agree with Professor Kororen, what you say we need to educate parents and students the importance of science. Say science is difficult, you are cheating yourself.
Thank you very much. I think Niger can go first and then you can finish.
I want to talk about how we can change the perception of the students that science is difficult. There are different ways. For example, I was in Mwanza like a year ago, and I found there was a summer camp, boot camp, something, where students of primary school are invited, or maybe they pay something. They come there to learn or to practice to use the technology. solving different problems. In that day, for example, there was a drawing on the board showing a rickshaw, a tricycle there, and the students were asked to build from boxes, of course, from boxes and wood, but using motors and electronic devices. These were standard 6 students, primary school students. So if we want to raise the interests of the students, we should start early. Encourage this kind of activities. Have hubs, have places where students can go and practice, use their ideas, workshops. In some places, I think in Kenya, for example, they have places where they invite people from like gerezani, people of such caliber. Watu wa machinga, watu wa gerezani kabisa, mafundi, wale ambao hawakwenda shule. Kuna sehemu kabisa ise lab, wanakwenda pale, kuna vifaa, they do solve their problems from there. Baadaye wanarudi mtaani. Kwa hiyo to raise the interest, we have to, kama tulivyosema, to link academic and the industry. Try to engage students from early age. Summer camps, hand-on practices, etc., etc. Nowadays, the students are more experts in technology than us. If you give a child, small child, your phone, 2 minutes, you will go to YouTube. A child of 3 years. So their mind is different. So we need to nurture and make them interested in technology.
Thank you. Professor?
Thank you very much. First of all, Professor Msofe, thank you very much for your question. First of all, I like to say my experience in running a private high school in STEM only. We don't have any other subject. So that's why the school is called Arusha Science. Parents are willing to pay. Okay, parents are willing to pay. However, we are overtaxing the parents that take their students to private schools because we don't get any reimbursement for anything we buy of taxes. We pay VAT for everything. But because the school fees, we don't charge VAT, there is no way of recouping that money back. So one of the things that I want to say is that Professor Msofe, I think we need to really support these parents because they pay me, so I'm not using my money to run the school. I use parents' money. So what we need it is to think about these parents. They're investing in a national treasure of skilled people in science. They need to be supported, and one of the things that can be looked at is the fact that we should not pay VAT on things that you actually buy for school. That's number one. Number two is your problem that you've said about attachments, and people now are using Form 4 and they train them themselves. One of the things that we have recommended, I was the chairperson of NACTIVATE Standards Committee, what we have recommended to NACTIVATE is we should redo the TVET syllabus so that field attachment is spread across the year. There is no industry that can absorb all our TVET students in 1 month of what is called field practice. I mean, they don't have space. But if we do our program differently, so that the field attachment of our students is spread across the entire, that's why Muhimbili, for example, is doing very well, because their field is done across the whole year, because the students are within the hospital. So we need to help the industries that are supporting us with the field attachment by spreading across the whole year. And they'll be able to absorb these students. And then, we should also support those guys by giving them basically a payback from the SDL. All private companies pay SDL, which is used to run, actually most of that money is used to run NACTIVATE as an organization. Now, if I'm receiving students for field practical for 1 month and then I'm paying also SDL, then it is too cost for me. So this government should just say, okay, if you are receiving TVET students in your industry, then you will also you can deduct your cost from the SDL that you are supposed to pay. That the government will help a lot. So those things needs to be looked at from the government point of view. But the final thing that I want to say about this practical and these camps are done because we don't have, so we need to know that as we expand STEM education, now called armored in education, we must also expand, the industry must also expand to be able to absorb those students, first of all, for practical training, but also as employees. So I still go back to my, nanyosha vidole, I still go back to my point. Our purchasing policy must change. We have to be ready to spend public money to buy Tanzania in things. Then our industry is going to expand. We cannot just hope that we'll start making cars in Tanzania if nobody is buying any car made by Tanzania. It will never happen. If we don't buy computers made by Tanzanians, computer will never be made in Tanzania. So we have to, it's a chicken and egg business. But government needs to say, in 2 years' time, all the computers must be made in Tanzania, and they'll be made in Tanzania, and we'll have an industry that also can train our people. Asante sana.
Thank you very much. Because of time, we have to conclude here. Key issue to take: STEM needed to incorporate skills and practical aspects, especially in assessment. 2, there is a need of closer linkage from STEM training institution to industries and vice versa. And 3, this aspect also needed to be looked from policy perspective. There are issues to address. Can you please wape maua yao panelisti wangu kwa makofi, na nyinyi mjipe maua yenu kwa makofi kwa usikilizaji mzuri. Ninawashukuru sana.
Nashukuru sana panelist, discussant pamoja na moderator kwa session hii. Tumekuwa nyuma ya muda. We are running behind our time, and it's because we had started late. But nevertheless, we have exciting other events that are going to happen in this room and as well as Ruha. So we are moving on to breakaway sessions. As you look to our programs, you will see there's a number of presentations that are going to happen in those rooms. So from now on, we are going to the breakaway sessions. If you look to the program, you see we have there are presentations that will take place here, and there are also other presentations we're going to take to Ruaha Hall. So I'm welcoming you to go to others who will remain here. Yes, they can remain, and then the others, if they choose to go to Ruaha, which is when you go out on your left-hand side, go straight, you will see the name of the hall right on top of the door.
Unaweza kuwa shared baadaye. Muda wenyewe.
Hello, good afternoon. I believe all who are still here, you'll be following the resilient system for food safety and security. Please get settled on your seat, and I would like to invite Sataz Begum in front. Can you come in front? Also, may I invite Proskovia Kamugisha to come in front as well. So just a guess, I'll give you a chance to present. Also, can I invite Lega Ninyoni to come in front? Kamugisha is with us? Okay. Lega Ninyoni. Lega Ninyoni, please come in front. This one, yes.
Kuna ili kuwaweze kutumia kora 400 unapiki either hiyo au hiyo, alafu baadaye unafanya tena replace ili kora 400 zitimie. Yes,
kwa hiyo anaweza akachukua mtu yote akajoin.
Yes, ana replace kwa. Ndio wakati unajua huyu ni bado labda kama
Okay. So can we have Catherine Kennedy Lutambi? Okay. Do we have Martin Komba with us here? Martin Komba? that Catherine? Pardon? Catherine, you are supposed to be in the second part, so you can join this group because the same thing. Yes. No? Ulikuwa hujaiweka. Okay. Martin Komba, Rashid Suleiman, Amina Hamed, What am I presentation? What? Good. Hello. I would like to welcome you all in this session that we are going to hear a presentation on the thematic area that talks about resilient system for food safety and the security, focusing on the productive sector. So I would like to introduce to you, we are going to have rapporteur, Dr. Protas Masawe, that will help us to record the deliberation from this meeting. And also we are going to have 3 presenters who are seated in front of you. We have Satas Megam, and we have Prokovia Kamgisha. Sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly, you forgive me for that. And we have Catherine Kennedy Lutambi. So just get seated, it's okay. So what do we expect from this session? As the title goes, Resilient System for Food Safety and the Security for Productive Sector, we expect this session is going to focus more on exploring the innovative and the research-based solution and the system that are helping to build our resilient system that ensure food safety and the security in the productive sector. The presentation will highlight various challenges and the opportunities in addressing food security, poverty alleviation, and the sustainable farming practices. I am the moderator of this session. My name is Erastom Liuka. Technology Management and Transfer works with the Tanzania Commission of Science and Technology. So I welcome all of you to follow the presentation, and we are going to begin with the presentation that covers on the assessment of heavy metal contamination in vegetable. This is a case study in Dodoma, and we will hear the implication on the human health. Welcome starters for the presentation. You have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. The topic I'm going to present here is assessment of heavy metal contamination in vegetables, selected vegetables in Dodoma. Actually, how did I get this idea to test this heavy metals analysis in the vegetables? For past 18 to 20 years, I'm in Dodoma. And wherever I go for lunch or dinner, what I see, everybody use umchicha as a part of the food, right? Previously, Dodoma was, okay, it was not exactly the capital city, but now it became the capital city. For previous few years, it tremendously developed. Dodoma has developed tremendously in few past years. Now we got a question. We had a question. As the Dodoma is growing tremendously, what are the implications of the food we are eating? Are they natural or are they contaminated? Then we got an idea to test those. And mostly we chose 4 vegetables. What are the 4 vegetables we have chosen? Like umchicha. Umchicha is very common. Wherever you go, they give you umchicha. With tomato, carrot, and pili oho. These are the common vegetables you found in everywhere, in every Toka Mama Tilia Paka 5-star, you are going to get these vegetables in one or other means. So we thought of testing heavy metals. So, what are heavy metals? Of course, I'm a lecturer by profession, so I'm not going to take long time. I'm just going to finish it up within 7 to 8 minutes. What are heavy metals? We know that the metals whose density is around 5 gram per centimeter cube, or atomic weight which is greater than 40, and atomic number is greater than 20. And toxicity, even at the very trace elements, if we take them in a very trace quantity, still we might face the toxicity. So what are the types of heavy metals here we have? We have essential heavy metals. Of course, we know that vegetables contains minerals. And what are minerals? We have here macronutrients, micronutrients in minerals, right? And those are the essential heavy metals too. Those are included in the essential heavy metals too, like zinc, iron, copper, etc. guys. And to that very toxic elements like lead, mercury, and cadmium. What are the sources of these heavy metals? There are many sources for these heavy metals. If I can go firstly, there are natural sources, agricultural sources, industrial sources, domestic influence, atmospheric sources, other sources. So this is a picture which shows a wide picture from the urbanization, industrial, agriculture, mining, wastewater management to the water sources, which are natural sources, and which all the heavy metals are accumulated in the water, and from the water, the fishes which we eat, the fishes are going to, mostly the fishes are the ones which contains heavy metals. I had seen an example. One day when I was trying to clean a fish at my home, I saw white color balls, and I took those white color balls and I tested it, and those are mercury balls. To my surprise, that is the reason sometimes when we eat fish without cleaning properly, we get allergic conditions, and sometimes even people die because of the allergic conditions. Do you agree with me? Yes, right? Yes. So those are the heavy metals which are deposited in the fish. You can see the picture here. And from the fish, we are consuming. When we consume the fish, indirectly they are transferring from the fish to human body. And we will eat for There are many effects on the human health when we consume the heavy body. If you can see the human body here, from brain to all parts are affected. All parts are affected because of the heavy metals, maybe one or other. How the vegetables can accumulate the heavy metals? A simple example. Everybody, we do have a gardens, right? We wash our utensils, we wash our clothes, etc. And sometimes water, we channel it through the garden. Do you do that? Sometimes when I don't know, I did that when I was a kid. I channel into the garden. Then my parents said it's not good because the water which we are using here, which you are cleaning, it contains detergents. And detergents are the ones chemicals, and those detergents or chemicals are going to deposit into the soil, and thus from the soil the plant is going to pick up those heavy metals or the metals which are toxic to the human body, and then we are consuming it. We are thinking that we are eating a very good food which is produced by ourselves in our gardens, but unfortunately the wastewater which we are using, which we are channeling to our gardens, contains heavy metals, knowingly or unknowingly. Example, while we are washing our fish, the fish contains heavy, sometimes it may contain heavy metals, and suddenly they are going to our gardens. So, vegetable absorption of heavy metals it can be contaminated by the soil or irrigated water. Sometimes we also use sewage water to our gardens. Let it pass into the garden. It is like a urea. It acts like a urea, but sometimes, unfortunately, we don't know that it might also contain heavy metals. So we have to be very careful while watering our gardens, especially when we are cultivating vegetables. Thus, this study becomes significant to know what we are eating. The main object of the study was to assess the levels of heavy metals contamination of the selected vegetables in Dodoma region. And the heavy metals which we chosen are lead, cadmium, copper, nickel, chromium, and zinc. What are our research questions? What did we do here? Do commonly consumed selected vegetables obtained from the natural sources contain lead, cadmium, copper, nickel, and chromium and zinc? Second question, if yes, what are the concentration of the lead, cadmium, copper, nickel, chromium, and zinc in commonly consumed vegetables obtained from different local sources? Do the concentration of heavy metals differ when compared with the established safety threshold or regulatory limits for heavy metals in food? What are the potential health risks associated with the observed levels of heavy metals in these vegetables? So we followed the methodology, and we had chosen the area of study as a Dodoma because nowadays it is becoming very populated city in Tanzania. And then the results, what does the results shows here? The results shows that, if you can see, we had a ho-ho, that is bell pepper, spinach, tomato, and carrot. Apart from that, these vegetables in comparison with the WHO and FAO, copper in a ho-ho is 0.16, spinach 0.3, tomato 0.21, carrot 0.24. It is milligram per kg, guys. And what the WHO says, what is the in comparison to WHO and FAO, it is 0.2. So I think, except spinach, little bit of tomato and carrot, there is in bell pepper it is okay, but in spinach is very high. Tomato and carrot still reasonable, but still alarming. So what about the copper what about the nickel? WHO and FAO says the limit given is 5, whereas in a ho-ho, spinach, tomato and carrot, the limit is like a 0.31, 0.45, 1.4, 0.87 respectively, which is under the limit. Chromium, what about chromium? The limit given is 2.3. But still others like carrot, tomato, spinach are within the limit levels, but the ho-ho contains a bit higher than the WHO standards. Lead. The WHO standard says that 0.3 is the limit, whereas what we saw is Ho is 0.25, spinach 0.24, tomato 0.28, and carrot 0.43. Still somewhere it is alarming in carrot, the lead, and lead is very toxic, I'm telling you. Cadmium, even the cadmium is a highly toxic and compared to the copper and nickel and chrome. Cadmium, the limit given is 0.2, but in Ho we had 0.02, and in spinach and tomato is lesser than 0.01, and in carrot 0.03. At least alhamdulillah I can say that we are safe. We are safe in terms of cadmium. Cadmium is such a toxic element. It can create cardiovascular diseases, and until it can damage your nerves. And we have zinc. Of course, we know that zinc is it's an essential element in our body, and the limit given by the WHO is 3.3. And the Ho contains 0.42, spinach 0.28, tomato 0.5, carrot 0.98, which is very much under the limit given by the WHO and FAO, under the standards given by the standards here. But still there are some alarming cases, like we had
I hope you can manage, right? She is going to present on the economic potential of hydroponics folder farming to reduce income poverty and the food insecurity among Tanzania's smallholders, dairy farmers. And they also should present on the economic analysis of the broiler production using black soldier flies, rubber mills in Tanzania. Help me to welcome Kamgisha. Welcome. 20 minutes.
Thank you. Is it going to give us a this idea? Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Proskovia Kamgisha from Mzumbe University. I'll be presenting two papers. The first one is hydroponic fodder farming for reducing income poverty and food insecurity among Tanzanian urban smallholder farmers. These are the contents of presentation, and we acknowledge that fodder or pastures, the main input in ruminant production. Unfortunately, there has been declining pattern of the pastures in communal rangelands, but again, the decline even back to 2006, only 26% could be met through the pasture found in communal rangelands, whereby in the 15 years time, it was projected that only 15% of the pastures would be met. And this problem is aggravated by the fact that climate change occurring and amplifies the challenge at hand. It is acknowledged again that insufficient pastures defeats the Sustainable Development Goals 1 and 2, aiming to reduce income poverty and improves food security. African Agenda 2063 and several national initiatives aiming to reduce the two challenges. And insufficient pastures now lead to income poverty, as less will be earned through the dairy farming, but even food insecurity and nutrition challenges would also be experienced if at all pastures wouldn't have been addressed. The existing efforts or technologies to address insufficient pastures include crop residues feeding, haze and silage manufacturing, and conventional fodder farming. But adoption of the aforementioned efforts experience less adoption rates of less than 1/3 among the dairy farming communities, mainly due to residues seasonal availability during the rainy season, while during the drought season, farmers couldn't get the crop residues. But regarding the silage in the haze manufacturing, it requires large capital investment, while fodder farming requires large-sized land, which is relatively, its attainment is hardly difficult in urban and semi-urban areas. For that case, then this paper advocates the use of hydroponic fodder farming technology to attain or to supplement the available pastures and to reduce income poverty and improve the food and the nutrition insecurity. Those are pictures whereby we could see that just a small area would be used, whereby we have like carpets and where the pastures could be grown without soils, but just being irrigated or mixed in with the nutrient solution. And that is what hydroponic fodder farming technique entails. This paper employed some structured literature reviews encompassing 1999 to 2024 time period, and it is searched from reliable databases as could be seen, including Taylor and Francis, Google Scholar, and other authoritative reports using 5 search queries like hydroponic fodder farming and the daily farmer feeding regime, like that. Then coming to discussion, we have the notification that the hydroponic fodder farming techniques uses instrumentive solution without soil, normally within a shorter period of time, within 7 to 10 days. The technology requires only 10% of the water requirements to produce the same amount of fodder or pastures, and a farmer who is herding 2 cows would only need 18 meters square land to feed them enough, compared to 0.8 hectares that would be required when this farmer would entail, would farm the fodder conventionally. Then the economic potentials, if we deploy the technology in the dairy industry, would be attainment of increased milk supply gap. That the milk supply gap now is 60 million liters per annum. That is projected to increase to 3,400 million liters by 2035 due to population growth and increased milk consumption projection. Now the increased demand, milk demand, will lead to requirement of more feeds. To attain that, that is where the hydroponic fodder farming technique is required. This is the trend of the national dairy head that is projected even to increase more than that And from there, we have projected, we have estimated the feed requirements, but also the increased revenue that could be attained if we would have employed hydroponic fodder farming, enhanced pasture availability, and increased milk productivity. And this could be portrayed using this one, as it could be seen from the graphs over there. They are project the income or the revenues attained from dairy industry when we employ hydroponic fodder farming is expected, is projected to increase. From that, we conclude that hydroponic fodder farming technique has been proved useful in other countries with a relatively agroecological condition like ours, and such that it can be adopted in Tanzanian dairy smallholder context. It is recommended that experimental research on hydroponic fodder technology using different cultivars be done to review the economic viability for different fodder crops, apart from cereals, which are currently being done within in other countries. But these we compete with the cereals like maize between human being and even animals. And it is imperative to conduct research uncovering costs and physical requirements for different fodder cultivation in Tanzanian context to inform investors such that they make informed decisions. Thank you. This is the end of paper 1. I'm stuck. Secretariat, please. Haitaki kuona. Oh, yeah. Asante. Thank you. Okay. Sorry for inconvenience, but the next paper is on economic analysis of broiler production using black soldier flies larva mills in Tanzania. Team of scientists conducted it. These are the contents of the paper. And you would say that chicken meat demand in Tanzania is rising, again due to population growth, but even the favorite towards animal sourced food. it is also projected that this increase will translate the feeds again to be more, and in poultry industry, it is acknowledged that the feeds are the major components of the costs. But the projected demand is expected to be met through exotic breeds by 80% due to the fact that it takes shorter time to produce the same than the traditional or the indigenous breeds. And the projected chicken meat demand is associated with increased feed requirements that is expected to reach 18.1 million metric tons in 2050, whereby the fish meal is the main protein source in poultry nutrition globally in Tanzania. But these feed supplements, the fish meal-based feeds, have negative environmental effects, compete with human beings, and compose huge cost components of the poultry investment. With that, it is imperative to assess alternative diet components to replace traditional poultry feeds, which is required, and for that this paper evaluated the economic analysis of using the black soldier flies larva meals in broiler production by comparing it with the traditional one. And the paper entailed gross margins, evaluated the returns on investment and the cost-benefit ratio for broiler production at different inclusion levels. The methodology entailed the use of 300 one-day-old chicks fed with different rations of black soldier flies meals vis-a-vis fish meal. The beds was assigned to one of the 5 meals under randomized cluster-controlled trials. And each experiment was replicated twice. Vaccination were done on a weekly basis. The black soldier flies were sourced from Femi agrotourism in Kenya, since we were not able to source the same within the country, and different rations were made using the 5 inclusion measures as could be seen. The formulation of feed were done here, and the red rows indicate the inclusion levels of dietary treatment for different feeds, where we had 0, 25%, 50, 75%, and 100 between feed meals and between fish meals and the black soldier flies. Then the chicks were measured and tagged. They were sourced from Silverland. The brooder were set up, and this is how we did it. From that, we analyzed the profitability using partial budgeting via gross margin analysis, where total revenue and the operational costs were engaged. We also estimated the return on investment and the benefit cost ratio. The preliminary results regarding the growth performance is portrayed when in the The bars over here shows the growth pattern of chicks as they were fed the feeds. They had relatively different growth performance, though not significant, and these were associated with the increased feed consumption as they grow. We could see this one, we expected the inclusion of, as birds' weight increased, they also increased their consumption. Here is the projection, is the estimation of cost involved along the production of the chicks. The costs were relatively similar because they shared the overhead costs, but we finally come up with the revenue in the return, where with the return on investment of averaging between 18% to 11% per month, which is the time spent for broiler production. It could be itemized that growth performance for feed did not have they didn't experience much differences, but the growth were increasing, were decreasing as the inclusion levels of black soldier flies increased. The feed cost composed only 31% of production, where in other studies feeds different feeds component about 70, but probably this experiment was done in the Southern Highlands where the feed starch were relatively low. Profitability across all broiler fed with different rations were between 18 to 11% monthly, and this seems to be relatively paying compared to the prevalent lending rates of banking lending rates of 16% annually in the banking industry. But there is no significant difference in profitability for broiler farming using different feed rations. It could be concluded that broiler production using black soldier flies could be used as alternative protein source for poultry feeds without affecting profitability levels. Yet the cost of procuring BSF was twice the cost of purchasing conventional protein feeds, and this could also be lessened by having the farming investment in Tanzania. It is recommended that on station and on farm researches entailing large flock size be done, but experimental research on BSF farming be done to validate economic viability of the investment and lessening importation costs of the flies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we can clap again because she made 2 presentations for us. Thank you so much. So now we are going to have the last presentation because we could not get the other presenter. So this presentation will be on seedling stage phenotypic screening for salinity tolerance in rice genotypes from East and Southern Africa. So we welcome Catherine Kennedy Lutambi for the presentation. Welcome. So you have 10 minutes for presentation so that we can have time to discuss. And I would like to introduce to you Dr. Festo. Maybe you can wave your hand. He is my co-moderator. We will moderate together this session. So thank you so much for your support. I understand you have been jotting down questions. We will trigger the discussion, and they will have also a time to ask questions from the panelists. Thank you so much. 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kefin Lutambi, currently from Mbeya University, and today I'm going to present a paper on phenotypic and genotypic screening of selected rice genotypes of East and South Africa tolerant to salinity at seedling stage. By introducing, salinity is a common abiotic stress that reduce rice yield in many areas worldwide. And although there are many agronomic interventions to control this problem of salinity, but the use of tolerant varieties seems to be the most cost-effective way to manage this problem of salinity. Hence, breeding rice varieties that can withstand salinity, aided by molecular and genomic technologies that identify salinity tolerance genes and KTLs, is a promising solution. Therefore, this study aims to identify rice genotypes that are tolerant to salinity and therefore enters the breeding programs and therefore breed for salinity tolerant varieties that can be used direct by farmers. And by methodology, genotypic analysis was done using the 1K RICA SNP markers from the 201 rice genotypes. But also the expression of salinity tolerance traits in rice genotypes was assessed through the phenotypic screening that was done through a Yoshida solution, that is hydroponic system that was used, and the protocol that was followed was the ERI standard protocol that we normally use for salinity experiment in rice genotypes. And also the geographical regions of 120 Tanzanian land races was also georeferenced, and so that was to look for the geographical distribution of these genotypes, whether they have SALTO allele or they perform well in phenotypic. And to explain, we looked for genotypic screening, we looked for the presence or absence of SALTO allele, as SALTO is one of the KTL that confer salinity, especially at seedling stage. So from the experiment, we can see in the right-hand side picture, there are some crops, rice crops that were planted, and you can see they don't have any, they just growed very well, no any plants that were died. But from the other side, you can see there are very few crops that remained. This shows that the remained plants, they are the ones that could tolerate the salinity stress. And the salinity that was applied here is the salt concentration of sodium chloride of 12 dcCmN. So in the other pots, we didn't put any salt. That means zero concentration of salt, while in the other side, we put salt of 12 dcCmN salt concentration. And the other plants that remained well, or that performed well with this screening, so shows that these genotypes could perform well in salinity stress. And the results and discussion, the study identified 2 genotypes, that is K5 from Uganda and Insindagira Bigega from Rwanda, that performed both genotypic that had SALTO and also performed well phenotypic screening that performed in the screen house. They did not show any characteristics of being affected by SALT, but also had the SALTO allele. However, there are some 16 genotypes that were observed to perform well phenotypic, but they did not have the SALTO allele. This suggesting that maybe other QTL could be responsible for the tolerance of these genotypes. So these findings highlight the need for further study to understand the underlying mechanism of their salinity tolerance, as other QTL or any other factor could have affected these genotypes, apart from SALTO allele. But also from the georeference data, we managed to find the location of these genotypes in various agroecological zones in Tanzania, and we observed that the one that performed well, that could sustain the salinity stress, they were mainly found in regions that could have more salinity stress, like the coastal zone. And the observed tolerance in the genotypes from the coastal zone may be due to the fact that the local farmers or breeder have prioritized these genotypes. Hence, they have selected these genotypes for years, and could find that they could more performed well in this stress of salinity. And as you can see in the figures, the left side picture is the spatial distribution of rice genotype, showing the presence and absence of the SALTO allele in the genotypes collected from Tanzania. And the right picture shows the spatial distribution of screened rice genotypes, indicating the lowest to highest scores from rice growing areas of Tanzania that were screened for 21 days at 12 dcCmN salt concentration. And by concluding, this study identified salinity tolerance rice genotypes, providing valuable resource for future breeding programs aimed at developing salinity tolerant varieties. They can be used directly by farmers as salinity tolerant genotypes, but also can enter in the breeding program that they could use to generate by combining other genotypes, maybe with high yielding genotypes, and cross and bring the variety that could perform well in salinity stress, but also could have good agronomic characteristics like yield and other characteristics. However, for the genotypes that had no SALTO, further research is needed to uncover other QTL or mechanism responsible for their tolerance in these genotypes. Also, this research emphasized the importance of regional adaptation in addressing salinity-related challenges in rice production, and offer promising opportunities for enhancing crop resilience and yield in rice farming. This project was funded by DANIDA, and we acknowledge for their support, but also the TARI and International Rice Research Institute and the farmers for providing the seeds, as the seeds were the one that we used for this research. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for the presentations. And please, another round of applause to our presenters. You know, one thing which sometimes might be looked like small things, but they have huge implications. For example, these presentations, they might be small in scale, but actually a country like Singapore, which is of equivalent to the size of our maybe administrative unit at the level of divisions or district, they are importing about 5% of they are importing about 95% of their foods. But they have a plan. They want to produce locally their own foods using hydrophobic technology that is being advocated here or being researched. so that they do not, they reduce over-reliance of importation. So this type of research, despite that for our case is about resilience to environment, but they have a very significant impact in our economy in terms of employment and securing our food availability in our homes. So we are moving forward, but to start with the discussion, I'm going to pose at least one round of questions to each presenter, and then they will respond. Thereafter, I'll give you the audience to ask questions to our presenter, because we have a limited time. So we'll try to catch up with time before, because lunch is ahead of us. I'll start with the first presenter from Dodoma. And actually it happened that I lived in Dodoma for quite some time. And I also witnessed development of Dodoma. It is very impressive. But to start with, what could be like the major sources of the metals that we found in our foods? Could you shed light on that one, please? Switch on.
The major sources is, first of all, we had to create awareness. Apart from the awareness, what are the major sources for this heavy metal analysis? As I mentioned earlier, natural sources itself, like water, air, even air carries some heavy metals, guys, and then soil. These are the sources which carries heavy metals. Knowingly, unknowingly, we ourselves, we are going to be the part of it, and we ourselves are going to be affected by it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to my sister from Zumbi University, I was impressed with the research that you are doing on hydrophobic technology as a source of resilience to our food production system. So how can it be made that this technology be used in our semi-urban areas and urban areas, and actually be used as a source of employment to our youth? Because currently we have a problem of unemployment among youth, but as well as food is being threatened by the climate change. But how can it be used to counter both, for the climate change and also source of employment to youth?
Okay, thank you. The hydroponic farming technique could be contextualized in smallholder farmers dealing with milk, because it requires just a small area, and we can even localize that. The hydroponic system in its context is huge. It requires huge capital investment, but we can use the alternative facilities which can be available in our context. And that being a case, the literature says that 2.5 liters per day per cow is being increased. And from that you could see having like 2,500 Tanzanian shillings, at least at farm gate price, we could have increased these liters. But the situation is merely difficult during the dry season, when even the milk production declined to almost 50%. So you could see that 50% being increased of the milk production, and this 2.5 milk liters could increase the revenue actually. But given the limited land size owned by smallholder farmers, now this becomes as a solution, because in urban and semi-urban settings, we don't have enough land to cultivate the fodder formal, but also it requires less water compared to the conventional means.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. And what could be like the minimum cost, like setting up a very small?
The minimum cost is estimated like 100,050 per square meter locally.
That looks like it is affordable.
Yeah, it is,
for the
but
graduate.
even through the Vikoba and the other means, if somebody is committed to invest in it, you'll find that it can be possible.
Okay, thank you very much. And then to Catherine, you managed to get some of the varieties which they are tolerant to salinity. So what about the taste? Did you look on that? It is still palatable to consumers if you want to take it to the market?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. The genotypes that were used, they were the genotypes that farmers usually use. So what we looked was to see if they can perform in the fields condition that had salinity problems. So they can just be used directly by farmers as salinity genotype that could tolerate salinity stress, but also can enter in the salinity breeding programs that could be used, maybe combined with high-yielding varieties and cross for the variety that could perform well in the field, but also could tolerate salinity. Thank you.
So it's like the seeds that the farmer currently are using are the ones that you are the ones who've tested
Yes.
and crossed them.
Yes, so with the one that the farmers are used, although we didn't know if they could perform well in the salt conditions.
Oh, okay. So the next step is we are advocating for mass multiplication.
Multiplication, not yet, but what we can do maybe is to try, and another experiment is already going on to test for their performance in the field.
Okay.
Yes, after we test performance, then we can then recommend those genotypes to be multiplied and be used by farmers.
Okay, thank you very much. So with this one, now I'm welcome the audience. Anybody who has questions to the presenters. So I'll start with one there, second, third. So on each line we have one question. So we'll start from Madam there. And then she will be the second, right there.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angela Palangio from KC Mioko, and I'd like to pose a question to the first presenter. So were you able to determine the specific farms or locations of the foods with these high contents of heavy metals, specifically the carrots? Thank you.
Then there was a second at the mid, yeah.
Thank you. My name is Pamela Semiono from Open University of Tanzania. I was interested also for the first presenter to know exactly where did you take your sample, the vegetable one. And also, you can explain to us how did you determine the health impact associated with the consumption of the vegetable, which is contaminated with heavy metal in Dodoma? Thank you.
And then there was a hand on this side. Okay.
Thank you very much to all presenters for a very nice presentations. I'm Violet Ernest Mamba from Kairuki University. My question goes to the first presenter. Like to add on the question which was asked, did you consider that the location of the land or soil could also contribute to different results concerning the presence of heavy metals? But also I was trying to give like a recommendation, if it could be possible, to consider testing for the residues like pesticides and maybe the preservatives which are used in vegetables. Because nowadays we are encouraged to eat a lot of vegetables and fruits, and we are told we are what we eat. But at the same time, there is a lot of hearsays about presence of chemicals in the fruits and vegetables. So maybe could you consider doing research on that area? But also another question go to Kamugisha. I don't know if it's a question, but kind of curiosity. You said the black fly, whatever, was found to be very beneficial in terms of reducing cost. But I don't know if you considered the issue of health implications, because we are generally told that broilers are GMO products. So even the way they are fed, the way they are taken care, have got some health implications to the consumers. So I don't know about the issue of black flies. Thank you.
Okay. Now we can respond to this first round of questions. Who would like to begin? Okay. Dr. Karim.
Thank you for the questions. After listening to these questions, I am happy that you are attentively listening, even though it's lunchtime. And Madam Angela, Madam Pamela, and Madam from Kairuki, you all have a similar question, more or less a similar question. Did you observe the location? This project is of 3 phases. The first one, what we did is, the one which I presented here. We randomly collected the samples from the market. And then we started doing this analysis of the heavy metals. Because most of us, we go to the market and we buy the things. We don't go to the farms. That is the first phase. And coming to the second phase, what we thought of. Now we are going to the particular farms, second phase which is going on, particular farms, and then we are going to collect the samples from the particular farms and also the soil content. You know, the soil content matters here. We are just neglecting the soil. So even in second phase, we do have the soil content from the specific farm of the specific area of the Dodoma. That is our second phase, which is continuing, which we are going this year. And then coming to the testing the residues of the pesticides and the chemicals. That is our third phase. First, we are going to establish the soil content and the water content, which the plants are getting, the possibility of the contamination in the water and the soil, and then the third phase is going to be about our pesticides and insecticides which we are using. After the second phase, we are moving on to the third phase of these pesticides. And what are the impact? What is the impact? You know, nowadays everybody are encouraging, doctors are encouraging to take more and more vegetables and fruits. But the vegetables and fruits, what we are taking, they contains heavy metals. So the heavy metals, as I mentioned earlier, they cause from bottom to head to bottom, they can cause the damage to our human health. Like what? Like nerve damage, cardiovascular diseases, bone, there are deficiency in the calcium or something like bone diseases, and finally leading to the carcinogenic diseases. That we are keeping in mind. We started this project. So lucky enough, we finished our first phase, and second phase is the one with the questions which you asked are going to be in the second phase. Inshallah, if I can, I might be presenting the second phase in next COSTECH conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I would like to respond like the health concern. I can't claim to be expert on that area, but at least literature says that there is no health nor growth performance regarding using black soldier flies in broiler production. And given the population growth and preference towards animal-sourced food, it is important to note that the traditional or indigenous breeds cannot meet the demand. And even currently, the major chicken meat are sourced from these broilers. But I think that these hearsays, just hearsays which creates perceptions. I've been involved in one way or another. Even after conducting the project, I could note that there is no, this is called GMOs, unless the manufacturing industries in our country is not monitored well. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, there was no questions directed to you? No. Okay. Maybe if there's one burning question from the audience before we wind up, because I'm told that our guest of honor is about to arrive. You have, okay, we have two there. So somebody will take the mic to Luhunga, and there was somebody there at the end. I think these will be the last two questions to the presenters. Ushers, somebody take mic to, yes.
Thank you very much. I was asking about the salt-resistant rice. How did you, what type of salt did you test? Because in the natural environment, there are different types of salts. There is sodium chloride, calcium carbonate, maybe something. There are so many types of salts. So in your laboratory, which salts did you test for the rice? Thank you very much.
Yes, there was a last one there. Okay, you can ask.
Okay, my question also goes to Catherine. In your study, you tested on only one factor, which is salinity, that could affect production of rice. I was just wondering whether you also consider to test other climate-related factors that could affect production of rice. This is interesting because rice, of course, is one of the topmost food crops that we are focusing on. So I could be interested whether, what is the current situation with, in relation to other climate factors, but also how could the future look like in terms of rice production if we compare to other climate factors. So I'll be interested in case, of course I have an extensive background in modeling climate-related factors, so we could discuss more in case you did not have room in your study. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine? Can you respond? Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a very burning question to the first speaker. Sometimes we are given values of vegetables and others, but we are not told how reliable, how accurate are these figures, how were they found, and how reproducible are the values. Can you comment about that, please?
Okay, thank you. I think these are the last ones, so you may restart to respond. Catherine?
Thank you for the questions, and I would like to respond to the question of which kind of salt we used. The kind of salt that was used is sodium chloride. And mainly because the sodium ions are the ones that affect the crops in the salinity stress, especially they disrupt the water uptake. The sodium ions disrupt the water uptake and due to the osmotic effect. So the salt that was used is sodium chloride. And to the second, that second person that asked on why did I not look on other climatic stresses, like maybe drought or floods or heat. In the project is the Climate Smart African project that we had several stresses, and some other people looked on submergence, other flooding. Unfortunately, I looked on salinity stress as one of the abiotic stress that affect rice production. And also your question on the future of rice production, I see, especially on the abiotic stress, I see the future is bright, especially with the development or advancement of technology. Nowadays, we can map, or we can do Q2L mapping, or we can do selection easier than other periods that we had to cross for several years until we get the variety that could perform well in the several stress. So I see the future is so bright for the rice production, especially with the climatic change. Thank you.
Then respond the last question.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Of course, vegetables, we all recommend, not doctors recommend, and also our elders, they recommend that to have a lot of vegetables and fruits. I agree. Because they contains micronutrients and macronutrients. What are these micro and macronutrients? They are the same which I mentioned here, like zinc, iron. Even our human body requires them. But how can we be reliable on the vegetables which contains heavy metals? For that, we researchers, what are we doing? Is better time to time. We do research on the food items what we consume. That is the only way. If at all, if we had, as I mentioned, carrot, it contains a cadmium, right? It contains a little bit of high concentrations of heavy metal analysis while doing the analysis. Then we said that, no, this is alarming. So let us focus on the carrot. Let us go to the vendors, and then we check where they are cultivating those carrots. In the same way, we had, using the intervals, we have to repeatedly check those heavy metal analysis. Heavy metals, are they in a limited according to the standards, or they are exceeding the standards? That is the only way we can eradicate these heavy metals from our food. Or we are going for the organic farming. Organic farming nowadays is very popular all over the world. So we had to adapt organic farming. That is the only way we can be reliable on our vegetables and fruits. I hope I answered. If not, I'm coming to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And that is the end of our session. Right now we are going for lunch, and the lunch will be served at Meru. I think is when you get out is on the left-hand side. So I would like to give a round of applause to our presenters. Please, you may join me to congratulate the presenters for their brilliant presentations and the responses to the questions. Thank you. You may take your seats. So so you are free now to leave and have your lunch, and then we'll come back here for the closing ceremony, and we will have the minister as it shows in the program. So please don't plan to miss. Thank you very much. Sasa tuliita presenter wote ndio afanya
Wewe mzima?